traveling there because I need to press record. So over the last few months, with COVID-19, on Fridays, we've been doing these What's Next discussions where we featured a ton of innovative technology, from Grand Pad to Aura Ring, and just a lot of really innovative different topics. And the good thing about that is it inspires us. We see this cool technology, and we all do the same thing. We're sort of like, oh, I want one of those, But I think the hard truth is that not all technology is ideal for everybody, and that's why I'm so excited to have Joan on today, because Joan is referred to as a technology implementer, and what she does is, and correct me if I'm wrong, works with clients, understands their needs, then figures out what technology might enhance their lifestyle. Is that a good description of what you do?
Exactly. And I also work with the professionals, sometimes behind the scenes, so that they can help the individual directly. So I either work exactly with the person in need, or their family, or the professionals who are helping them.
Now, you've got a really unique background that I think ideally suits you in this field, because as we know, talking about technology to older adults, can sometimes be like oil and water. But just give us a brief snapshot of your background, because I've always found it pretty interesting.
Sure, absolutely. So I'm actually a speech language pathologist. I got my master's in speech pathology at Northwestern back in 1986. And when I first started, I was primarily helping survivors of strokes and head injuries and adults with different neurological impairments. And back then, we really didn't use much technology. It was just for augmentative communication and some voice therapy, but really not every day. But then through the years, I've been doing this for over 30 years, as technology kept getting better and better, I started using it as part of my speech therapy practice. And my practice is constantly evolving. And so I'm going to talk, you sort of gave me some go-tos. You wanted to know how I pivoted my practice and what some of these problem points are to generate discussion. So later I'll get a little bit more into details, but I consider myself a tech coach, especially for seniors and those who help seniors. And I have a lot of elderly members of my family, and I also have 4 young adult children. And I've worked in a variety of settings, and I know what it's like to be busy and overwhelmed. And so I try to make technology a bit easier and really functional to improve lives.
Wow.
That's in a nutshell. I'm just always trying to solve problems and meet people's needs in different ways. And especially now in this time of isolation, it is more critical than ever. Before, I used to have to, I saw it as my mission to try to make people realize that technology can be a good thing if it was a good fit. Now, I think everybody's just thrown into this world of technology for survival, and people are desperate for this information because there's no choice.
No, and but we're seeing how it's improving our lives. I mean, case in point, just this meeting. I mean, none of us had to jump in a car and get here. We're able to just focus on this for an hour, and then we can go off and do whatever. And and remember, when you're in the audience of a meeting and you were dozing off, you can doze off during, not that anybody's going to do that, but none of us can see you dozing off, or you could be in your pajamas. It's awesome. So anyways, okay, Joan, well, let's jump right into the presentation. I'm going to take myself off the screen so that we can give you maximum, give our audience maximum view of your PowerPoint. I also just want to remind the audience that you can type in any questions as they come to you into the Q&A box. And then when we reach points where Joan says, hey, if anybody has a question or a comment, you can raise your hand. But take it away, Joan.
That's right, great. And also everyone in the audience here should know that I don't sell any particular technology product at all. I just make it my business to try everything that I can find that has the potential to help people, and then share what I've learned that may be a good fit for different individuals. So, and I work with people of all ages. I work with young kids with developmental problems and autism, and students with learning disabilities. I work with the whole gamut, but today we're going to really focus on helping seniors. And I encourage you, really use chat, because I often go to online sessions like this, and you can learn just as much from each other as from me. And I'm just offering one perspective. And we only have an hour. This could be a week-long course. So I encourage you all to add any helpful information that you can. You can sing your own praises if you're a good resource for others, because there aren't enough of us who are comfortable with tech to help seniors. Also, after today's presentation, give me about an hour, because I want to add in any helpful resources that you all share during chat. And then you can just text this number, 833-735-7333, if you have a US phone carrier, and you'll get an email of this presentation sent right to you. Or you can email me at joan@innovativespeech.com. I am all about sharing resources, and I think that we can really learn a lot from each other.
Hey, Joan, you
Yep.
know, in the spirit of this being an interactive presentation, we've got our first question that came in. So I'm just going to read it to you, because I think a lot of times if we can kick the meeting off with somebody asking a question right out of the gate, it really opens it up where the people recognize that you want this to be an interactive presentation. And he or she says, "Hi, my parents are basically stuck in an apartment because of COVID and have refused to use tech their entire lives. They are not willing to get internet access. Any thoughts on what tech they could use without having internet access just to be more connected to the world?" Wow. Great way to kick it off with a super complex question.
Yep, and that's going to be the first topic I talk about, is how to get people connected. Steve, I really appreciate all of these sessions that you've had. I would say, if I just off the bat, if I had to pick one thing, I have a GrandPad right here, and you don't need Wi-Fi access. It costs about, it's a tablet that costs about $200. And you don't need Wi-Fi because it uses 3G or 4G, whatever it is these days. And so that would be my go-to to start off with. But I'll be coming to all kinds, that information later. But
Awesome.
I think critical, that's the biggest problem we have right now, is just connecting with all these seniors that are so lonely. Okay, so let's continue. So what we're doing is we're looking at what problems there are. That's my dog, Cody, and my two dogs are sitting right next to me now. And so what's missing in the lives of a senior or a caregiver that we might be able to use technology to improve? And so today, let's talk about the roadblocks. And again, in chat, you can help each other out, but lack of Wi-Fi can be a roadblock. An attitude that's sort of anti-tech can be a roadblock. Lack of access to someone who knows, good tech-savvy solutions is a roadblock. There are a lot of problems. So why don't you type in chat all the problems that you think that we need to solve and your roadblocks. I'm just going to give you a minute so you can all vent a little bit, because there are a lot of problems. It's hard to get seniors using technology.
Cost,
Yeah, and I see
money.
so many familiar names. This is it's very fun. The cost. Oh, you're not seeing.
It's not senior friendly. Helping seniors navigate their screens better screen sharing. Too complicated.
Low vision. Yep, needs to be easier. All kinds of cognitive impairments. There are so many roadblocks. And also, just so you know, a lot of people in my field, speech pathologists, we're told that in order to do speech therapy with anybody that has Medicare, we have to accept Medicare, cannot accept private pay if we offer us a Medicare reimbursable therapy. it's very hard for sole proprietors like me to accept Medicare and make a go of it. So usually it's just hospital and big organization-based therapists, although there are some private practitioners. So I've really had to pivot how I help seniors, and I offer tech coaching and online courses and things. But there are a lot of roadblocks because there aren't even a lot of speech pathologists who specialize in communication and cognition that work with seniors. A lot of them, I believe, because of that regulation, now are working primarily with younger people, which is a shame. I feel that people with Medicare are discriminated against because they can't choose who they pay for their therapy. But that's another whole issue. But I did want to get that out there because I think a lot of people don't realize that.
You know, Joan, this was great, and the attendees are really putting a lot of roadblocks in, but I never thought about this one that Leah Nickman, who's a Daily Money Manager, references, is that she is oftentimes wants an older adult to share a document they received in the mail with her, and she's having difficulty with scanners or taking pictures or FaceTime. Never thought about that, but that's something that a lot of us are dealing with is printed forms.
Right, printed forms. And there are ways to share forms online, the whole Google World and Google Docs and Microsoft 365, Office 365. There's a lot that we can discuss, and I don't want to get, let me just move forward and we'll just see where this goes. And again, if you all have solutions that you found helpful, keep it going in chat, because if I get too distracted, I won't get through the information. All right, so these are some of the ideas that I thought of. These are big problems, isolation, hearing impairment, dexterity problems, vision problems, loneliness, boredom, stress, thinking, memory, communication. It's hard. It's hard now. And so what I like to do is take a person, when I'm helping people, I take a person-centered approach. So just like Steve said at the beginning, we look at the individual, we look at their strengths, their needs, their interests, and then and also, as we're doing that, we need to know what's possible. So in order to help people, if you don't know what you don't know. So that's why it's really great that you guys are here. And together, hopefully, we're going to know more. And then the next step is to set up the environment for success. So a senior does not have to be tech savvy or have any prior experience to benefit from technology if it's set up. Now we have another hurdle because we can't even see people in person. So that's a huge challenge. That's really affecting me because I'm doing everything online now. But there are ways that we can use Zoom and get remote control. If an individual, if a senior will share their screen with me and they're on a PC or a Mac, they can share their controls. And with remote access, I can go in and configure their computer and configure accessibility features and set up whatever I want. Can't do that so easily on the tablets and the other operating systems. But it is tricky. Okay, so we have to, oops, sorry, I skipped a slide. So we have to look at ourselves as problem solvers and detectives. And the first problem, because Steve wanted me to talk about the biggest problems, I think right now our top priority is loneliness and isolation. I mean, I've seen my mom, I don't know if you're watching this, Mom, but I've seen her twice in 4 months. And my dad a couple more times, but it's only for doctor's appointments. And so it's hard. So we need to really actively connect and communicate with others. And that's just a basic need that everybody has. Even if you're in the same building, people are not seeing each other. So I think that figuring out how to set up video calls is the first priority. And there's been a lot of research on this. I'm not going to be quoting any research, but I think we all know, I mean, making a phone call is great. But if you can see a person, you feel almost as if you're there. And so Zoom is wonderful, but it's complicated. And so a lot of people need this. And I know that I think if an individual is able to use a phone and might happen to have an iPhone, FaceTime is probably the easiest. And I just listed a bunch of the different ways here that you can use. I mean, Facebook, if somebody's on Facebook, there's Messenger, and now you can use video calls for that. There's WhatsApp has video calls. There's Skype. Doxy Me is, for, I know it's hard for telepractice, to see your doctor and make a tele appointment. Sometimes that's really hard for seniors. So this Doxy Me, they can just send you a link and you click on it and you can see each other and talk. But still, it's a little bit hard. And so people need to be set up with that. And all of these require Wi-Fi or, a Wi-Fi signal or 3G. A little bit at the very beginning, I mentioned this grandpad.net. And I think that if I had to pick the easiest tablet or the easiest way for someone who has never really used tech, can't use a phone, can't use a computer, doesn't have Wi-Fi, this is probably the easiest solution and the safest. You have a family administrator who sets it up. You can buy it at Target or from Consumer Cellular. And again, I sound like a salesman, but I really like this product and I don't get any money from it, from recommending it. So I've set this up for quite a few families, and you can put in pictures of the people that you want the person to be able to call, and they can just touch that little image of the phone and decide if they want it to be an audio call or a video call, and they just call that person, and that person has to have the app on their mobile device. And then I think it has to be on a mobile device. I don't think you can answer it from a computer. I haven't tried. But it's pretty easy to use, and you can have a video chat. You can also share pictures. There are games on it. There's a camera. You can do some simple email, but it's got a good touch. I know sometimes when I'm using, an iPhone or a tablet or a computer, it's hard for seniors. I don't know, something about older fingers. It's hard to get the right touch sometimes on things, or to use a mouse. And they've really done a great job with this. Has anybody tried using the GrandPad and had any success? Or why don't you take a minute to input different, to write in the chat the different ways that you've had success with setting up video chat. As you're writing, I just want to highlight one other way that I've been successful with my mother-in-law, who is not tech savvy and 94. The one thing that we've used that's most successful with her is the Amazon Echo Show. So we use Alexa. I don't want to set off anyone's devices, but I know in my house I have a few of them. Echo, stop. Sorry. I renamed mine ECHO. I forgot. I try not to use Alexa and I use the other name. But anyways, you can just say, so-and-so call grandma, and they'll call the device, and then they just touch it and you get a video call. And if you don't have a show device, you can always just use the Alexa app on any of your mobile devices to initiate the call. So I would say using the GrandPad and using this Amazon show device, those are my two favorite ways to communicate with seniors, and if there's an iPhone and using FaceTime. And then if all of these have different ways that you can stimulate cognition also. Let me just take a second to see if there are any questions. Yeah, WhatsApp is great. It's for free internationally, so that's a great way. Brian, I meant to put Sociavi. I haven't looked into that enough, but that's another tool that's supposedly really good. I just haven't looked into it. TeamViewer, I see Isabel asked about TeamViewer. I haven't used that myself, but I believe that that's a way that you can have access into a person's computer and configure it. So that's the other way besides being in Zoom and asking for remote control access. Okay, let me move on. Spike app through my iPhone. I don't even know about that one. I'm going to have to, I like learning from you all. I'll add it to my list, and that's how I learn. Another way to combat loneliness is that, Facebook Live. So if you have family groups or friend groups, you can watch videos together. You can, interact together. Anything that you can do online together in real time, I think is excellent to combat loneliness. I wanted to make sure to give a shout out to covidspeak.org. This is especially for seniors or anybody else who is unable to communicate verbally, because if they're alert but they're trached or they can't speak for some reason from a distance. This, maybe they have aphasia, a loss of language, or some cognitive problems or whatever. If they're in isolation in the hospital, I know that this organization for free is offering this technology to centers that help people who are isolated. And so definitely go to covidspeak.org. It's picture-based. You can type, you can touch pictures. It's augmentative communication, and it has video to communicate from a distance. So nobody feels totally alone. So I see there was a question about the GrandPad. With the GrandPad, the cell provider is actually consumer cellular. That's the only cell provider that it works with. So even if you have Wi-Fi for the GrandPad, you can choose to use it if that'll give you a better signal, but you don't have to. And you still have to pay the month, I think it's $40 a month. And that's because GrandPad really offers a lot of security features, and it has excellent consumer support. Okay, another way to help with avoiding isolation is to use captions, and I just want to show you how this would work. Some people find it distracting, but I'm going to start using captioning while I'm presenting on slides. And captioning is now available as part of Google Meet, which is another, spelled meat wrong, which is another video sharing tool that's being used a lot in the schools. And otherwise it's free. So it's for video conferencing. You can see people and talk as long as you have a Google account. You can also set up captions to work while you're watching TV. On YouTube, it's often possible to have captioning. So just as you're interacting with individuals, if that person has any auditory processing problems, hearing problems, memory problems, attention problems, I think often captioning is a really good thing. So I'm going to leave the captioning on for the rest of the presentation. One thing I like about Google Meet is that the user can decide if they see the captions or not, whereas when I'm presenting to you all, I make the decision, and then everybody has to see it or not. So I just wanted to encourage everyone to use captionings with seniors whenever it can be helpful to them. Then once you're online together, there are a lot of different things that you can do. So you can either be sharing screens, or you can both be on the same site online, and you can watch a movie together. You can play games, you can exercise, you can listen to music, you can join book clubs. Sometimes you may know the people that you're participating with. Other times those people are strangers, but it still gives you a sense that you're with others and interacting. So why don't you all take a minute in chat and just let us know if you've found ways that have worked for you to interact with people online to try to minimize loneliness and isolation.
And while they're doing that, Joan, had a few questions that came in terms of the closed captioning. So this is not via Zoom that you activated that.
That's correct. I have been in touch with Zoom, and I really am trying to get them to offer captioning. They do offer closed captioning, but it's if you have a third party or a person connected to it. It's not free, and someone has to be typing it in. So you can do it that way with Zoom. The closed captioning that I'm using is part of Google Slides.
Oh.
PowerPoint also offers closed captioning. They call it, what are they? I forgot what they call it. Subtitles. They call it subtitles. And the one reason I don't like that quite as much is it appears over the slide. So then it blocks some of the slide and you can't see it all. but it has a lot of very cool features. Like I could be speaking in English and present to a bunch of people who don't speak English, and they can see it in their own language. There's some very cool things happening now, but that's a Google Slides feature.
And
And
that's
it's
great to know. No, that is great to know. And then Betty asks on this topic, can you change the size of the font on the closed captioning
yeah,
on?
yeah. So I don't know. Can you see it when can you see the closed?
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty
Yeah,
small, but it
you can pick it
actually,
if it's at the top or the bottom, and you can make it bigger or smaller.
okay.
Um, okay. All right, let me just, yeah, so really help each other out in, I'm sure there are going to be so many questions. Okay, so these are just some online groups that I think it's really important for those of us who are senior care providers, as well as, you know, just caregivers at home and seniors to connect, find ways to connect with other people. So Steve has this pro-aging network for senior care providers, which I think is fantastic. You know, GROWS is a grassroots organization for the well-being of seniors, is another organization. I've become active with virtual connections, and that's really for not just seniors, but people who have aphasia, loss of language after a stroke or brain injury. And they have some great groups. So far, they're free. Senior Planet is another organization that offers a lot of free online group sessions. You know, and then in LinkedIn and Facebook, there are lots of groups. So I see a question, can GrandPad be used in Canada? I don't know. I don't know if it's through Consumer Cellular, and I don't know if Consumer Cellular is in Canada. Okay. All right, so that's all about connection and communication to avoid isolation, or at least minimize it a little bit. Problem number 2, because I tried to think of a few different problems that I help people the most with, is reading. A lot of seniors have spent time reading books and they really love it. And then as you get older, many of us experience visual problems. You know, it's hard. A lot of people have trouble reading. Maybe they have some cognitive issues. And so you know, and that can be a problem with interacting with technology also. It might be hard to read. I also work a lot with students who have lots of reading problems. And so I just want to make sure that everyone realizes that you can go into the settings on any device, any phone, tablet, or computer, and you can change the size of the text, and you can also turn on the ability to have text read aloud. And so I can demo some of these things later, but you know, any Microsoft Word document can be read aloud. Any website can be read aloud. Your email, text messages, Facebook messages, all of this. So if that's the problem that's keeping someone from interacting with technology, try to go in under the settings, and it's a little bit different depending on what device you're on, but as long as it's a relatively recent operating system, it should be able to be read aloud for you. And then it might be as simple as, you know, on a phone, you can just, you know, hold your finger down and then press speak, and it will speak out loud for you. Or maybe it's a 2-finger swipe down and then it'll start reading aloud for you. Or maybe you highlight the text and then it reads aloud to you. There are lots of ways. But I just want everyone to realize that that should not be keeping people off of text. I don't really work with people who are blind, so I'm not good with some of those features. There are ways that people who are absolutely blind or have significant low vision can interact with technology, but that's a little bit out of my scope of practice. I'm not great with that. Okay, so reading text aloud is something, and then really listening to audio is another way that you can benefit from books. So Audible is by Amazon, and that's really popular. You can also use the Alexa devices to read books for you. You just say, Alexa, read me a story. And you can customize the echoes so that it meets the needs of the user. There's also a free app that anyone who has a library card, which everyone can have these days, if you get the Libby app, it'll work on any device. You can, virtually check out audiobooks from the library for a couple of weeks and listen to them, and that's all free. Okay. All right, let's just see if there are any other questions. Hi, Janet. It's so nice to see so many familiar names there.
There are tons of questions coming in, Joan, but I want to let you get through your...
Okay, I'll get through some more and then we'll just go to questions. All right, This is an image that I created that just shows the ability of these devices to magnify. So not only can you make the font bigger on any of your devices, but if you enable it, like I can touch the home button 3 times. I have an old phone, it's just an iPhone 6. Touch it 3 times, and if I point it at, let's say, a medicine label, it will magnify it for me so I can read it better. So again, that's just the accessibility feature. All mobile technologies can act as a magnifier for you and also have light with them. So that's something good to know about. All right, and then in addition to isolation and reading, writing is often a very big problem for seniors. And so I just want to encourage everybody to explore different avenues. I work a lot with students who can't write also. And so sometimes, most seniors, we've all pretty much used a pen and paper to write. And the problem is that, especially when we're isolated, it's hard to share those documents with other people, and often you might forget the documents. And so I've really gotten into showing people how to use Google Docs, the app, or Microsoft Word, and to store everything up in the cloud and have it available from all your devices whenever you might need it. And then it's easy to share the documents with other people. And you can even password protect some of these with, a PDF file can be password protected. So I don't want to get too complicated here, but I think that moving to technology for written documents is helpful. And then if it's hard to type, then you can often dictate now. And so you can speak just as I am now, and you see the words automatically written. And this can be done in a Microsoft Word document, in a Google Docs document, any email. You just have to set it up. And all laptops these days can do it for free. If you have a desktop, you might have to get an external microphone, or you might have to, just work online instead of just being on the actual computer. But that's what I do. I try to go in there and help people figure out what the obstacle is and how to overcome it, and feel comfortable with different ways to accomplish their task. Then the last problem that I wanted to talk about is cognition. A lot of people have, you might not have to have dementia. You could have mild memory problems, lack of stimulation, you're trying to keep your brain sharp, and anywhere in between. And so I try to help people get more organized with their technology to help with memory and being efficient with their tasks during the day so they have better productivity. And so a lot of times it's helping people learn to use a digital calendar. And you can share it with other people. And even if that individual isn't putting in the appointments, if you can share it from a distance, they can see when their appointments are and get reminders. Again, maybe some online classes. And I'm going to have a few links to some things. Playing games online, listening to music together, or from a tablet or a phone. Just anything that you can do to get the brain going. And here are some sites that you can just search for them on Google or on YouTube, but just know that there are a lot of free sites on YouTube and on other sites, I didn't even put the ARP one, that are wonderful. They're exercise classes, you know, they're senior chair exercise classes. I put a link to some TED Talks that make you feel good about getting older. If you go into the TED Talk app, you can pick talks that are just, you know, short and on certain topics of interest. There are also lots of different virtual field trips, or you can look at museums and, you know, or here's a link on YouTube of songs from the old days. So they're just really trying to find ways to use technology to engage people. Here are some apps that I've used. You know, Lumosity is something just to help a lot of people that are high level feel that it helps keep their brain sharp. There's some controversy over if it actually does, but people feel good using their brain. Language therapy is by Tactus Therapy, and that works on specific sort of drill and practice exercises that are customized for people with reading, writing, talking, listening, cognitive problems. So that's something that speech pathologists use a lot. There are hundreds of apps. I've written books. I didn't even allude to my books, but I've written 4 books and then even a chapter in one for how to use technology to help people with dementia. And then there are different cause and effect in the bottom here. There are different cause and effect apps where you touch something and something happens. So it's not like they're all high level. Or you can just look for apps in the App Store of whatever device you have to play games, 4 in a row, Sudoku, solitaire, whatever. And then I have this here is First Words. That's an app that is sort of like unscrambling words, and then it has a really nice visual reinforcement when you get it right. So I'm just about done talking, then we'll go to questions and comments from other people. But if anyone wants any help, this is my website, innovativespeech.com. And I would say probably 4 or 5 times a day, I set up calls with people. So if you click on that Let's Chat on the bottom, you'll see days and times within the next 3 days that I am available to chat. So you just put in your email address and phone number and I call you, and then I help you get to whatever your next step is toward becoming more tech savvy. And I do that with people all over the world, which is pretty exciting. And it keeps me on my toes. And so you write in advance what you want to learn. And if I don't know it, I try to make it my business to figure it out. And then I'm always offering you know, different events and speaking. I've got a lot of presentations coming up. But Steve asked me to talk about how I've changed my practice, and I'm constantly pivoting my practice just to meet the needs of people. And we've had a loss in my family, and I am not doing anything in person anymore. I'm only providing distance support right now. So no more in-person for me for a while until there's a good vaccine out there. So I've pivoted and I'm only doing tech training, coaching, and professional development right now with seniors. And I'm about to release a self-paced course for people to help them become more tech savvy. I'm also helping guide a lot of well, not a lot, I want to get more into this, helping senior care communities, and I'm helping people all over. This is an image for my next endeavor is to offer a 3-week Tech Savvy Challenge. And I talked to Steve about this a while ago. I'm making it only $3 a day because so many people have lost their jobs and are having financial problems. But I need to make money in my business. So what I'm doing is helping people through the experience of becoming more tech savvy through videos and some online group office hours. And so I'm going to really be concentrating on the virtual connections, helping people get more organized, especially using Google Apps, and taking advantage of all the free features on their phones to overcome barriers. And if any of you are interested, and I'll have this again later, if you can take out your phone and just text the word challenge to that number, 833-735-7333, and you'll be some of the first ones on the waiting list. And I hope to start this July 27th. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to email everyone that has expressed interest I haven't decided how many people I'm going to let in this first round of it yet, but I'm very excited about it. It's not very expensive, and I think it could make an enormous change for people. And you can go through it together as a family or with friends. And here's my contact information. I'm on LinkedIn, Facebook. Here's my email. And I also have a number of webinars. All these different webinars are now available to watch for $25. So if you want a lot of specifics, I've been doing free webinars for a long time. So for $25, you can just watch all of those. I have a Facebook group. Going through this pretty fast, but I want to get to questions, and you can have a copy of this. And I'm going to add to these resources before I send out the link to this handout. So any of you that have added resources that you'd like me to include, I'll be putting them in. I put in the link to Pro-Aging and to my resource page and to ARP.
Great.
And that's it.
Excellent. All right. Good job, Joan. And we've got tons of stuff that's there in chat where we're going to give everybody a download of chat after this. But let's jump into some of the questions and comments. I'm starting at the top of the list. Brian Miller wanted everybody to know that ResiCare, a platform that he is with, is 4 to 6 weeks away from video chat. Let's see, any AAC software on GrandPad? Amy Roman asks.
Yeah, no. So if there's somebody.
What is AAC?
AAC is augmentative and alternative communication. So that's a whole field within speech therapy. And so the answer is no. You'd have to use a dedicated communication device to speak, and then it would pick up the voice that's produced. Or you can do a video chat and point. There are all kinds of boards, communication boards. And from my website, I actually have a whole free mini course on that includes downloads for adults, different kind of healthcare communication boards.
Okay, great. Ed Miller says, is there a monthly charge for GrandPad?
$40 a month.
And one thing, we've had GrandPad on our on this weekly discussion. I'll make sure to send a link to that discussion, but they have a really robust customer service department. I'll make sure to list that number for people to ask specific questions to. Kathleen Koenig Stoffel says, is there a way to set up video chat on Kindle?
So if it's the Kindle, there are different kinds of Kindles. And so if it's the one just for reading, I think no. But if it's a Kindle Fire, or one that you can use the Android apps, you can use, there is a way, I'm blanking on the name of the app. If anybody can think of it, you can write it down. But definitely, there are Android apps for video chatting that are free.
Okay, great. Zoe Larbig says, someone asked in chat if Echo Show requires Wi-Fi.
Yes. Yes. So when we were setting up my mother-in-law, we had to set her up with a hotspot and it takes up a lot of data. So I had to switch my family's account to unlimited data because the Echo Show takes up a lot of data. So I'm actually in the process of getting her Wi-Fi in her apartment. But yeah, you need Wi-Fi for it.
Alexandra Johnson says, how do you watch a movie with another person, 2 people in 2 places? I know Comcast just launched a service called Watch Party. So if it's 2 people on Comcast, that's available via your television. But are there some other resources for that type of interaction?
And again, some of you might know better than me, but I think just the other day I read about some app that's coming out for Netflix where you can have 2 people. I don't know the answer to that. I mean, you can always just both have your Netflix open and watch it together. Yeah. But I know that there are more sophisticated ways coming out that you can do that, or you can just sort of keep FaceTime on and watch and just sort of be there with each other. It just depends on the situation.
Trudy Summers has a great question, and it actually makes me think that we need to have explore this topic in detail. Is when I do Zoom on my laptop, there's a lot of breaking up and freezing. How can I fix that? On my iPhone, it's mostly okay.
I mean, if you want me to add, I know that I think it depends on the signal there. And so I think that it depends if that person is directly connected or not. They're just two different types of transmission. One is the Wi-Fi and one is the 3G, I think. And so I don't know the specs on which is better. I know I don't have any trouble with my Zoom, but sometimes people will say that their Zoom is breaking up and they have to restart. And I think it just has to do with the signals and the power of the device. I don't know if you have a better answer, Steve.
No, that's great. And Brian Miller, when you were listing a variety of resources in the region, wanted to just throw in a shout out for COGS, which is the Coalition of Geriatric Services, and that's primarily Howard County. If you guys go to positiveagingsourcebook.com, you can actually search for all the networking groups in the Mid-Atlantic, and we have them all listed there too. Let's see. There's a bunch of things in chat because I haven't been monitoring chat, and some people have been basically posting to the panelists. So I'm going to try to get through some of these. Let's see. Isabel says, hopefully chat will be available after the webinar. Absolutely. I'm going to make a copy for everybody. Let's see. Okay, Pam Lusby says, there's also a device called ViewClicks for video, but you need Wi-Fi, viewclicks.com.
I don't know anything about that. I'm taking notes. Okay.
Oh, yeah. Oh, this is good. John Butterfield asks, can you recommend a 10-inch tablet, Android, alternative to GrandPads? No monthly fee. Okay, meaning that if somebody had Wi-Fi, you know, in a larger tablet that had apps installed, that could be an alternative. But I think when you listen to it's all based. I think the issue with GrandPad is really based on, and again, this is where Joan is great. It's identifying the person's technical acumen, because if somebody is tech savvy enough to install and navigate apps on an iPad or an Android device, perhaps that could be the preference. But the GrandPad is an out-of-the-box, user-friendly, no-brainer device.
I mean, it could be that you buy an Android tablet and then you just take off a lot of the apps and just have Skype or the app I can't think of the name of that does the video calls on Android. You probably could set that up, but then it just depends if the person can use it, and then there are the different updates. It's just not quite as user-friendly, but it's also less expensive because if you already have Wi-Fi, you don't have to pay the monthly subscription. So that's why you have to just try different things. I don't know if anybody has tried that. Feel free to give a shout out in chat. I mean, before GrandPad, that's what I always used to do. I would try to use an iPad or an Android tablet and simplify it. And create little, write out step by step what someone can do. But it's hard. So things always happen, it seems. Different notifications pop up, and there's always a lot to know, and things are always changing. And so it's sort of nice when you can customize the experience online and have good access to tech support to help.
Mm-hmm. I really like this idea that Isabel McDonald posts in chat. She says, I'd love to get an online Q&A group going for those of us who have elderly relatives struggling with tech issues. You know, Joan, this could be an opportunity for the two of us to partner. It's sort of like maybe a bi-weekly, just open forum style session, just like this one, where it's just always on the calendar and it's kind of there. Karen Wolfram says, tell me about slidesmania.com. I like this as an alternative to PowerPoint.
Thanks. Well, Slides Mania, it's just so cool. Every time I give a presentation, you'll see it here on the bottom left. It says slidesmania.com. It's an add-on to Google Slides. And so all of these different Google apps, like Google Docs has add-ons and Google Slides has add-ons. And so this is an add-on that's free. And so you can just download the template. It's different templates. But it's really cool because I set it up so that if I don't know, they're all very different and I think they're very engaging. So if I go back to the very beginning, the first slide, well, I'm not going to bother doing it, but they're all linked up at the top. And I thought for this senior serving group, it'd be good to have it look like index cards. So that's why I picked this one. Some are more, I use different Slide Mania templates for different audiences.
Great. Yeah, and then just so you guys know, just in that time that Joan was mentioning it, I was able to go to the G Suite Marketplace, identify it, and start downloading it. So Elizabeth Brazil says, I heard that you should not set your Echo Show near a window due to the fact it could be a security risk. Are you aware of this?
That's interesting. I mean, there are, with the Echo Show 8, mine's going to go off again because I said it, you can put it to sleep and you can close the shutter. There are privacy controls. I really haven't heard that about the window, but I know that there's, with all of these things, with Google and with the Echo, the Alexa devices and all of these things, there are privacy concerns with everything. And so we always have to sort of weigh the pros and cons of convenience and accessibility, ease of use with privacy, and so it's a challenge.
Can GrandPad receive and make phone calls?
Yes, but you can make phone calls to anybody, but you can only receive them, I think, from contacts. I know they really try to protect it so that the user does not get any spam calls. Okay,
great. And then let's see. Okay, Betty says, Steve, really looking forward to seeing all the chat. It was too much for me to follow during the presentation. Will you be emailing? Absolutely. And then somebody asks, can you explain again what you want us to text you for the $3 a day chat experience meetings, trainings, waitlist? We are not clear on understanding what you are offering. So just reiterate.
Yeah,
exactly.
Absolutely. Okay. So and again, this is just, I think, the second or third time I've used this. This is Textify, I think it's called. It's a service, and I've connected it to my MailChimp. So I'm always trying out new things. But the first one is if you just text the word handout to that number, give me about an hour because I want to add some of the resources that you all have given. And what will happen is you will just put in your email address and your name, and then a copy of my handout, the slides, will be emailed to you. So that's my way of, you'll then be on my list. That's marketing for you. So, and then the challenge is a different opportunity for people who want to become more tech savvy. It's hard because you can Google or go on YouTube and search to learn how to do a lot of different things. That's how I teach myself everything. I'm always on the lookout for ways to help people, and then I teach myself what I need to know. And I go to a lot of webinars. I'm constantly getting professional development. I have so many hours. But it's hard to even know where to start, and you don't know what you don't know, and then it becomes very overwhelming for people. And so my idea is that this is the first in a series of 3-week tech savvy challenges where I present sort of a path for people to follow on this journey to becoming more tech savvy, and I'm creating videos. It's a course that we go through together. I'm creating videos, but you don't have to be available at any certain time. So you'll receive an email. I'll be writing some text out. I'll be demoing some videos that I'm creating or linking to other videos that others have created and giving suggestions for practice. You know, like how to start using a Google Calendar or how to organize yourself or minimize distractions or some apps or how to get remote control using Zoom, like lots of different things, but it's only 3 weeks, so I don't want to overwhelm people. So I'm deciding what I think is the most important information for people to learn, that's the easiest to learn and implement, that can have the greatest impact fast and for free. So most of what I show won't cost money. The course is going to cost money. It's like 3 times 21. It will be the course cost, and you can go through it at your own pace. And then I'm going to develop more specialized courses. So maybe one for helping seniors with dementia, maybe one for helping adults with aphasia, maybe one for students with learning disabilities. But this is going to be the first one.
Okay, great. Well, let's see. It's a little after 1, so sensitive to everybody's time and on this Friday afternoon. Joan, this was absolutely awesome, and I love the suggestion of trying to make sessions like this sort of perhaps more ongoing for our audience and our clients. So we're going to follow up with everybody. We'll record this. Well, we have recorded this. We'll send you the chat. You're going to text Joan for the PowerPoints, but Joan, if you want to send me a copy of that, I can include it in the follow-up email as well. And I think this is great.
Well, it was a pleasure. And again, anybody, if you want to just talk to me for a free 15-minute phone consult, just go to my website and click on Let's Chat. And
Sure.
I can
Speaking of talk, Olive Friedman just raised her hand. I don't know if this was by mistake, but Olive, did you have a question? Okay, well, it might have just been a mistake there, but anyways, guys, we'll see. Again, hope to see everybody on Monday and Wednesday for our next 2 discussions. Those are going to be great. And thanks a lot, Joan. We'll be following up with everybody soon.
take care. Bye-bye, everybody.